Hey guys, Louis here. I'm in the backyard. It's 6 o'clock in the evening, and I wanted to show you how a September garden, what a September garden looks like. Our garden is tired from the really active growing season of the spring and summer, but summer is really brutal in terms of heat here in North Carolina. And look at my perennial borders. We are on the west side, on the elevated garden, and wait, there we go. Sorry about the lighting and sorry about the plane. It seems like whenever I talk to you guys, a plane passes over me and want to compete with my voice. Over here we have the pergola, one of my projects from last winter, and here's our gargantuan artemisia that has grown to about 4 feet across, coming from an original 6-inch pot. There's my boxwood that I had some video over the spring when I was shaping it, and now you can see that it's overgrown. Lighting, there we go. So I got one over here, another one over there, and another one in the back. We're gonna go and walk through the long stretch of our perennial border. To the left, we have our mixed border that I was able to establish over the summer, spring and summer. But I wanted to show you a few things happening over here. When we first bought the property, we do not have any trees, and so spring of this year, I bought these crepe myrtles that we are trying to grow. I have shaped them to look like almost topiaries, and so when they all mature, all this foliage that you see will now go above the fence line, so that the neighbors, all those neighbors that we have on the opposite side of the main thoroughfare, will have privacy from them. So it will take about 2 years to get this going. You know that garden adage, the first year plants sleep, second year they creep, and the third year they will leap. So I have 2 to 3 years to really see how the growth pattern of all these crepe myrtles will occur for us. This is a mess right now, as you can tell. I've got weeds, and I'll show you how big and massive and nasty these weeds can get. This was the rose that I worked on and did a crowning, shaping, editing that I did with the pruning really quickly. The idea was to put the rose on either a horizontal, the main cane on a horizontal, or a 45 degrees, so that we could get all these growths. Now you see all my lateral growths. We didn't have those the last time I worked on this project, so this is a successful venture. Like I said, on the second, next year it will really grow well, because now I've got 3, 4, 5 different canes that are growing from that main cane. Look at that. This part of the garden really needs a lot of attention. Look at those weeds. I still have a foxglove growing over here, and I still have my pear tag on the original tree that I planted in the spring. Next year, this fall and next year, I'll probably rest in the winter, but you guys know me. I'll probably be building something in the winter or whatnot. But this is the focus for next year, is to develop and bring around this side of the perennial border. So this will be more shrubbery and a few things like low-lying herbaceous perennials on the bottom. Now you see that I have some empty pots here. This is a future project. I don't want to give too much away, but a really neat technique that I learned from a British gardener that I follow on Instagram and YouTube. So we'll get a good tutorial on that in the next few weeks. We have a lot of material because there's a lot of things going on here in Acorn Hill, and we're just blessed enough that we have more than a few materials and content that we still are struggling to edit on the cutting room floor, but it's all good. This plant over here is a Japanese, spring tulip, or I'll put the name down on up on the screen, but you can tell that this is struggling because of the bad clay that we have here in North Carolina. Have a lot of mold. This is alive, but before this goes into full root rot, I'm gonna do something about that, and a couple of other trees and shrubs that are over here. Now let me show you one more before we really go to what I need to do today. That is a weed. Look at the size of that weed compared to my hand. All right, long, lanky, and it's got some seed, so before it really sets seed I gotta take this out. So this coming weekend I think is where and when I will take care of this weed. That's a crabgrass right there. It's not just a crabgrass, this looks like a lobster grass from the way it looks. It's massive. This is probably 3 feet long from there all the way to the tip of this, I don't know what you call that, a branch or whatever the heck that is, but that's about 3 to 4 feet long. My rosemary has overtaken my path, and that's the big rosemary right there that we planted from the original 4 or 5 4-inch pots that we got about 5 years ago. We're walking now all the way to the end toward the east side of our perennial border. This was my cold frame during the winter. As you can tell from the sun and from the heat and everything that's happened down this part of the garden, that needs some rehab, and we have to gotta work on that before the winter, because I have some coleus and some tender perennials that I'm gonna put in that cold frame. I did make that that bee hotel in the winter when I was really having the blues, and we had some solitary bees go there, but look what happened. It's just for one reason or the other, it's not a hotel anymore. It's an abandoned hotel. But I like the way the beehive shape of the wood looks like, so that's still held its place. We're still going and going and going. This was the rose that had the Japanese beetle on it, and Japanese beetles have left. But look at that bloom right there. There, let's focus on that. There we go. Look at that beautiful bloom. This is what the garden looks like during this time of the year in the fall. It is a mess, I know, and this is reality. I just wanted to show you guys what happens to an active garden with one gardener trying to keep up with all the growth from the heat and from everything that's happened throughout the summer. Look at the viburnum that decided, this thing decided to bloom in the fall, and probably it does, I just have no idea. So it is its second, this viburnum is having its second year here in the garden, and like I told you earlier, the first year plants will sleep. The second year they will start creeping, meaning they will start growing because now their roots are established. But look at that. And again, I apologize for the lighting. I'm still using my iPhone in filming this. But look at all those softwood growths that have sprung up. Its first year was probably a foot and a half tall. But right now, this is about my height now. It's about 6 feet tall, which is pretty good. The red rose that we have here in the garden is now overtaken by bindweed. You can't see the rose anymore, but look at that. All covered in bindweed. And cousin it is made up of bindweed right now. We're about midway down the long perennial walk on the elevated garden, and yep, there we go. What a mess, huh? So Louis has more than a few things on his hands between fall, winter, and back into the growing season next year. And that's what gardening is about. You know, you never finish tasks. Tasks are never ending, but you learn from each task and how you need to strategize each time you have this. Before we go to my final spot for this afternoon, for this early evening, I wanted to show you this fall perennial that we have. Look at that beautiful calicarpa. beautyberry. My camera's not cooperating with me, it doesn't focus right, but I wanted to just celebrate the beauty of the beautyberry. And there she is, first pergola on the almost east side, and there's the other one. What I'm going to do today is tie down the climbing rose that I have been growing this growing season, and I'll tell you all about it by the time we get there. All right, hang on. Hey, we're by the pergola right on top, and it's a good shot for you guys to see what I'm about to do over here. I got this rose. It's called the New Dawn Rose, a climber that I got in February of this year. It came in a 3-gallon pot, and I got it from a local grower, and she told me that this will grow and become this big and this long for about 4 or 5 months. 5-6 months later, coming from the base of the pergola, now we have them, and just on this plant alone I have about 9 canes. These are the main canes that I've been trying to grow, that are important to have so that we could tie this down right on top of the pergola. And tying it on top of the pergola with the principle that I mentioned to you guys before, roses as a producer of flowers like this, and they will have massive flowers if the canes are on a horizontal 0-degree plane to about 45 degrees. So between here, right, and about that tall or that height, all these nodes are going to produce growths for us next year, and they will be the sources of flowers that we will try to develop for both this pergola and the other pergola for this pair. But I wanted to just show you guys how we will do this. It's pretty straightforward, and we just need to tie this down so that if the winds come, we'll have a good growth pattern for all of this. Right now I have about 3 canes that I need to tie down. Okay, let me show you what I did over here, guys. Because they are new, they're not mature, these branches. I'm very careful that I don't bend it too hard, because we don't want to break them. But as you can see, if I put the camera down on this plane, we have about 3, 2 right now that are tied down, and 1 that is still right over here. This one that I still need to tie down. I need to be on the opposite side of the pergola, but we have a huge drop down there, and I don't want to get into an accident, so I may have to get a ladder. What I did here is simple. Twine. We first drape down the twine going this way, and as you get two of the ends of the twine, you bring them up and you tie them, doing a double knot, double square knot right on. You don't want to tie this down too hard. You want to give it a little room for expansion and growth, so you don't hurt the branch. But that looked pretty good to me for now. The second one that I use for this branch, it's not as tight as the other one. There's still a good gap between the rung and the branch, because if we pull this down too hard, over here we may have bad tension on that part of the branch, and we don't want that to break off. But like I said, I'm gonna go to the other side maybe tomorrow. It's close to dinner time, but maybe tomorrow I will bring a ladder, and we will bring this down and tie this down all the way. It's still pretty tender, that other branch, that we have to be very careful with it. But coming down, I wanted to show you that the second branch that I tied from the top, they all came from that branch, this branch, Now you see that off of one of the branches on the opposite side of the post, you have this long branch dangling, and that's something that I will put right on top also, so we can get them to crawl and climb and grow right on top. And I'm really liking it. Just look at that from this angle. Hang on, I might as well get down all the way down on the steps and show you what they look like. Wait, down from this angle, look at that. That is beautiful. And if you have more, and we will, once we get 3 or 4 more, imagine the entire thing having a living roof made up of all those branches coming from the new dawn rose. See what happens here, and look at all these other growths. See, I still have some canes coming from the base of the rose. It's a healthy rose, because look at all of this. I got this one major cane coming from the crown. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then off of the 4th one, you get another one growing. So that's 5. And here's another one, 6. So I got 6 major canes. Now this, well, this is number 7, growing from that little stub right there. It's a healthy rose and never had any disease whatsoever. This is just from late summer, you know, all this rust, whereas my other roses has all of them, because I forgot to trim off and clear the bottom of the rose. This is one of 2 climbing roses that I got from a local source here in my area. My rose vendor told me that New Dawn, this particular climbing rose, will take about 3 or 4 months to grow so they can develop some of these long canes. And true enough, it did. What I did to guide these branches up is I had copper wire that, you know, randomly but also methodically, I had to make sure that they're secure. I got a copper wire from one of my stash, and I got this aluminum wire that I've just brought up. So now you see where they will be tied down to here. And that's where I tied them to make sure that they're kept in place. So I have this acute funny angle happening over here with the cane, so I gotta be very careful with that so I don't break that. But if I move this up here and weave it up, yeah, I really have to be on a ladder. I have to be on a ladder to do this properly, but you get the idea. From this angle, that is what my project now looks like. Yeah, this pergola, both pergola have a good journey with me since I started working on it in the winter. So just another step to getting this garden look and get to the vision that Kat and I had many years ago. So just wanted to show you what's happening over here. But for now, this is Louis coming from the almost east side of the garden, giving you a quick tour, an impromptu tour with bad lighting. Well, where was I? Oh, I was this is Louis coming from the back here in the backyard in Acorn Hill. We'll see you back soon.